Good morning. I'll just check that my microphone is on. Good morning, good morning. It is lovely to be back. And hello to you all. I see Michael's here, Jackie and Lynette. Can I remember how to do this? Yes, there we go. Lynette, lovely to have you on. Jackie as well. As I say, Michael, marvellous to have you here. Philip is saying welcome back, and I will talk to you about my little trip. And Catherine, lovely to have you here amongst many others. I see this is the Facebook, this YouTube crew coming through at the moment. And Gillian's telling us that it's fine in Kerry, which is good. It has been bucketing here in Auckland and exceptionally windy. I'm told more to come. And Harrison, lovely to have you on. Welcome. And hello to a rabbit hole as well. Look, hello to you all. Oh, Yolanda. Oh, look at all these wonderful people. And Sandra, welcome. Hello, good morning. Look, actually, thinking of all and any of you who are affected by the weather at the moment, I think I was reading in the paper, because there's been a bit of a rush this morning, that it's actually quite bad in the South Island. So for those of you down south, I hope you are keeping dry and safe. There's a lot of flooding. And here in Auckland, we're told that actually the wind's going to get much stronger in the coming hours. So just be safe out there. Though it sounds, from what Gillian's saying, that Kerry is doing very, very well. Hey guys, well, a mixed show today. As some of you intimated, you've said welcome back, because I've been overseas. I've actually been in Israel for the last week, which has been absolutely incredible. To go to the Holy Land during Easter tide. I was actually there on Easter Sunday. That's when I actually got to Israel. So I spent most of Easter Saturday flying in the air or in Dubai. But I've been in Israel for what has been quite an incredible and very affecting trip. I'm not going to go through all of it today. In fact, I'm still trying to process my thoughts. I've only really been back 48 hours, and I'm still somewhat jet lagged. If any of you have ever done that trip, it's 17 hours to Dubai, or Dubai to Auckland, and then another 3.5 hours to get to Tel Aviv in Israel. And that's where I was primarily based out of, Tel Aviv, but travelled to the south, to the north, and everywhere in between. So a big part of the trip, as you might expect, was to go down to the Gaza border. So I was there for some time, obviously observing what was happening. Didn't go into Gaza, as you'd expect. Long and short, wouldn't survive. So did not go into Gaza. I was about a kilometre from there. And quite affecting, as I say, artillery rounds firing in. And you know that those rounds are bringing destruction and likely death. But then on the flip side, I was visiting some of the massacre sites, like the kibbutz called Neroz, where a quarter of the population were slaughtered. Went to the Nova Music Festival, where 400 or so young people, again, were brutally murdered. So quite affecting, I have to say. But there were good elements too. I mean, obviously I was there to observe the war in many ways, and to understand, particularly from the Israeli perspective. They were the ones hosting me, to sort of understand what the Israeli people are going through. But importantly as well, for those who are wondering, got to meet Arabs, got to meet those of what they call the Druze community. So it was really quite amazing. So I will actually just share a couple of photos with you guys when I find them. But this is just a taster, if you will. I'm still processing my thoughts. I'm going to be writing more about this on my Substack. I'll certainly be sharing more of the photographs, more impressions. I'll definitely talk about it more here on Solid Ground and RCR and elsewhere. But this is one of the most striking things as you get into Israel at the moment. And I hope you can see this. And sorry that my face is not there. I just want you to see the photos. These are banners of the hostages. There's about 54 left in Gaza at the moment. They think only 24 of them are alive. I don't know how they work that out exactly, but as I say, Hamas is still holding 54 civilians mainly in Gaza. And so these banners are everywhere. ubiquitous is the word everywhere you go in Israel. And by the way, Israel is just a little peanut in the scheme of things. It's so small. It's so small. It's only 14 kilometers from the sea to effectively the Dead Sea. As I flew over Jordan, so I'll put this back on here. As I flew over Jordan, you cross the Dead Sea, which is the border, and within like a minute or two, you're in Tel Aviv, the airport. You just realize how small Israel is compared to its neighbors. So everywhere you go, and as I said, I was basically able to travel from the north to the south, the west to the east. You see banners like this, you see stickers on every lamppost, and I'm not exaggerating, on every lamppost, yellow ribbons on cars, everywhere. Like, this is a collective trauma on the people of Israel, and 1,400 of their people were murdered and slaughtered by Hamas and those from Gaza on October 7. We can't shy away from that, nor should we. That would be like 1,000 New Zealanders being killed proportionately. So it's been an absolute shock. And you can see why, and I hope this doesn't get too many people. This is inside one of the houses in the kibbutz. Just one of the houses. So, again, very affecting. I don't find this stuff particularly easy, even though I've been to war zones before. But this is in the kibbutz called Neroz, right on the border. They used to have Gazans come and work and help. It turned out a lot of them were actually just sourcing intel, because when the terrorists and others crossed the border on October 7th, they knew exactly which houses to go to, including the men and women who used to go to the Gaza border and help people across to get medical care. And they slaughtered them. And so that's just one of the images. I've got many. But this one, next one I'm going to show, and I hope this is not too heavy for people, but it is the reality of what's happening. You don't particularly get much of it here in the New Zealand mainstream media, but this has been probably the image that has affected me the most. This is a burnt out door. It's actually, I put it in my Substack that just went out an hour ago, but every house in Israel, as with the kibbutz, needs a bomb shelter, because Hamas and Hezbollah out of Lebanon are quite keen on firing rockets randomly, never specifically at military targets, just firing rockets. So everyone has bomb shelters. Just imagine that here in New Zealand, that everyone have to have a bomb shelter. So that's where they went when the sirens went off on October 7. And in this particular case, the guy was holding the door handle to try and stop the Islamists getting through. And you can see the 3 bullet rounds from an AK-47 there, aimed exactly where his hand would have been. And again, I just share that because he didn't survive. He was one of that 25% of that kibbutz that were slaughtered. And again, just awful. And I still haven't found the right word for this, guys, but it's not even useful. It was quite, again, affecting to go through the kibbutz and to get a sense of, as you say, that war, because not only were you seeing these horrors, but at the same time could hear the thud of the artillery firing into Gaza. And as I said at the start, that's destruction and death on people there. So it's the ugliness of war. It's the ugliness of war. This is the Nova Festival. This was a music festival, I think about 10 k's from the border with Gaza. The Hamas terrorists didn't know that this festival was on, but they stumbled into it. They think actually those in the paragliders spotted it, long and short. And again, I know it's from a distance, but each of those little, that effectively sticks with photos. That represents who was killed, and over 400, particularly young people, were slaughtered there. And it was a slaughter. This was not directed at the military. This was brutal violence. And again, to be at this murder site, 400 young people. I've actually interviewed or listened to a survivor. Her name's Marzal, actually. She came and talked to me and some of the others on the group. I'll share a bit of her story at another point. But as I say, it was all very brutal. These are just some of the cars. Notice they were all burnt out. And again, for some, this might be quite heavy viewing and listening. And at one level, I apologise, but I think this is the reality certainly Israel faces. But we in the West have to confront as well. The cars were burnt out because the terrorists coming out of Gaza bought specific accelerant to burn the cars and the bodies. This was not, guys, just the intention to kill Israelis or Jews. It was to wipe them off the face of the earth. And I think that's something really important for people to understand. And I don't think the West gets this. I don't think the West gets this. But why Israel is quite traumatized by this and pushing back hard is they know that this would happen to each and every one of them if Hamas or others within the Arab states were able to take over. They would be slaughtered. And that's why I think they're so worried. And Rabbit Hole's correct. It is unnecessary death. This is the problem with evil in the world. It's the problem with evil in the world. And, we just hope and pray for peace. But it seems to be very fraught at the moment. None of the overtures seem to work. But speaking of peace, on something nicer, this is... and hello to Nicola there in Tauranga, lovely Tauranga. This is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So I actually got to go there on about, I think, the third or fourth day into the old city of Jerusalem. And so this is the site where tradition from the time of Emperor Constantine, so in the 300s, he believed, or his mother believed, that not only was Jesus crucified, but it's also where he was buried. And I'll show you inside in a moment. One thing that I've always found funny, I don't know if you can see it there, there's a ladder by one of the windows, and I've always found this one quite funny because the church is run by the Armenians, the Catholics, and the Orthodox churches. And they've actually had big arguments over the years, as you might expect of different Christian denominations. But long and short, the ladder was put there for some renovations, but there was disagreement. And so I think for about 100, 150 years now, that ladder, that ladder's been there and they can't move it. There's no agreement to move it. So I think it's quite funny. Victoria just commenting, it's impactful images. That look, they are. I will be sharing more over the coming weeks, both good and sad. As I say, the first days were very much focused on the massacre, on the events of October 7th, meeting survivors, seeing what happened. But lots of good and better, happier pictures, as I say. So there's the Holy Sepulchre. This is inside. For those of you who, like myself, and lean down the Catholic route, quite comfortable with this. I think if you're more on the Protestant side, this will be garish and just completely overdone. But I think really it's just the most simple is just to take a step back and admire what's just artistic beauty. This is where Jesus was believed to be crucified. So I don't know how well you can see on your screens, but in the middle, obviously an altar, and then behind it is like a gilded crucifix. And then you can look down in some glass and see the actual rock, so where they believe the cross went in, and then on the left and the right side where the two thieves were. So again, really impactful for me personally. I'm not too worried if this is or is not the specific site. I'm not so. My personal faith is not tied to those specifics, if you will. I mean, obviously I believe in what happened, but my belief isn't, what's the right word, completely linked that this has to be the site. But as something that expresses what could be, I just found quite amazing. And for me too, as someone who loves this sort of thing, I just think it was exceptionally beautiful. Again, the creativity of humans. This is the Holy Sepulchre itself. So it's a church within a church. So you might remember I showed you this one earlier. That building is over this little one that you can see. And that is where they believe Jesus was put in the tomb and obviously where he resurrected. So for me, quite a profound moment to go and pray there. As I say, it doesn't impact me whether that was exactly the place or not. But it was just, again, incredibly moving to be there. I suppose it's an expression of faith. Last couple of things. And Harrison's right, violence should never be tolerated. No, and I think you did right, Harrison. The issue becomes when there is violence, how do we respond to it? What is the right response? And I think that's the big debate that's going on. Excuse me. with Israel at the moment. And thanks to Alex as well. I am seeing all the comments coming through, so thank you for that. So yeah, that's the Holy Sepulchre. You can't take photos inside. There's a priest there who guards it, so to speak. So that was quite something. The Wailing Wall, if you know the Western Wall, that was if you know your history, particularly of the Jewish people, this was the wall of the temple. In Jerusalem. Sorry. I think this is in relation to, yes, I I think that's the comment of the morning. Jumping back, so the Wailing Wall, so that's the temple wall, and the Romans in the 60s and in the 70s, as in literally 60 AD and 70 AD, destroyed the Jewish temple, but this is the only part that remains. So it's the holiest site for the Jewish people, and they come to pray, and they call it the Wailing Wall because many people lament. They lament. So that was, again, quite impactful for me to go there, because it's a good chance, well, not a good chance, that was the temple that Jesus went to. Whether he was at that exact wall at some point, who knows? But it was, again, for me, quite special to be there. A couple of last things for you who love the, and I'll get to your question in a moment, Shirley. These are the Qumran caves. If you know anything about Qumran, it's where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. The Bedouin who a very good question. Statement just came from Rabbit Hole, which I'll get to as well. But this is the Qumran caves where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. So the earliest copies of the Old Testament in particular. So again, this was amazing to see. I didn't go inside them, but this is on the way to the Dead Sea. And these, for those of you who know your Bible, this is a place called El Gedi, which is actually mentioned in 2 Samuel. It's where, if you know your scriptural stories, it's where David hid in a cave, like these, hid in a cave, and then at night went down through El Gedi, which is where this waterfall is, this oasis, took Saul's sword and cut his cloak. And so this was an actual place, a physical place mentioned in the Bible. And the last thing I'll quickly show, this is the Dead Sea, 400 meters below sea level. I will not terrify you. With pictures of me floating, other than to say it was quite remarkable. Shirley was asking, and thank you, it's nice to be home. I loved being over there. It was really quite an experience. It was always nice to be back with family. I felt perfectly safe. In fact, I felt safer in Israel than I do here in New Zealand. And to be clear, I don't feel unsafe in New Zealand, although I was conscious while I was away. Someone was, stabbed to death here in my own area, or old electorate. But no, I felt perfectly safe in Israel, but there is a paradox in that. So going about the community, walking out in the morning and the night, whenever, never felt a problem. Part of it is people are very well armed. There are always lots of soldiers, most of them going off to fight. But no, I didn't feel unsafe. But, and this is where you think the paradox kicks in, at any moment the sirens could go off for an indiscriminate rocket attack. So it's not that I felt unsafe, but you're just conscious that at any moment you might have to move rather swiftly towards shelter. I didn't have to. The sirens didn't go off while I was there. The ability of the likes of Hezbollah and Hamas and the other Islamic groups has been strongly degraded because of the military actions by Israel. So they don't have the ability to fire as much as they used to. But you are always conscious, wherever you are, of where would you go and what would you do. So I was sitting down with one of our former ambassadors, actually, just on a pier out by the sea, and you're thinking, if the sirens went, where would you go? So it's not unsafe, it's just aware. But as I said, overall, perfectly safe. So that was good. Pat's asking about the fires. Yeah, there were big fires around Jerusalem. I don't know who set them off or not. All I can say is at the time we were being hit by a heat wave. So excuse me, yeah, we were hit by a heat wave like 40 degrees. Oh, yeah. Rabbit hole, this is one, it said, a very good quote by Mother Teresa. War is a reality. You don't like it, but there are times when it's had. So anyway, there was a very long, much longer than I thought, but I wanted to share that with you and I said I'll probably share some more images here. I'll be writing quite a bit more, and I'll be doing some interviews. I might do a podcast and talk about some of this and include more of the photos, just so again you guys can get a little bit of a sense of what's happening, because you don't, I think, get a lot of the story here in New Zealand, nor I think I've got a better understanding of why the Jewish and Israeli people are as affected as they are and reacting the way they are. We can debate proportionality and all of that, and I think that's important too, but it was just very insightful. Hey, last couple of quick points. I just thought I'd share this because actually I think this is a good news story. This is actually in Ireland, and long and short, this priest he's a padre, which means he's an army chaplain. He was going into an army base in Ireland where a young radicalised Islamic boy stabbed him repeatedly. But why I share it as a good news story is the priest forgave him. And I think it's a small and simple thing in one level, but quite profound. Now, you'd expect it of a priest. But I just thought actually it was a good story, not the stabbing. That's a profound thing to do, though, is to forgive. So I just thought that was positive, a nice story, because I always try to have something nice. I'm going to talk, and Bob, I'm sure will as well, about this. This has just come out in the last 24 hours. A huge research project has shown, and again, this is just for your information at this moment, these abortion pills. So again, Jacinda Ardern and her mates have pushed it here in America. They fire these things around left, right, and centre through the post, and we're all told, lied to effectively, that it's perfectly fine. Well, they found that 11% of people taking these pills, which are here available in New Zealand, in fact, the people who bring it in, the doctors who bring it in, make a lot of money selling these pills. They don't like to admit that, but they do. Long and short, this study, 11% of women suffer serious adverse events. Again, legitimate study, very rigorous. It echoes actually what Dr. Dermot Kearney was saying to me. I interviewed him. He's an Irish doctor who's involved with abortion reversals. That's when, if someone takes the pills I just mentioned, he can prescribe and has prescribed huge doses of progesterone, which effectively reverses the harm. But he has pointed out, and he'd pointed in his own limited research, that these pills were dangerous. Of course, they were denied by pro-death advocates, saying they're perfectly fine. But here is a very robust study. I'll talk and write about it more, but I just thought I'd signal that to people. This was before I left, and it sort of links slightly to my Israeli trip. This was the school climate change protest. So the Friday before the school holidays, the kids decided it was time to protest the climate again. They didn't want to wait for the school holidays. They wanted to take a day off school. But notice all the flags there, the independence flag, the Palestinian flag, honour the treaty. I think really, and it's a political point here, guys, we at the Free Palestine, the indigenous movement, climate change, they're all just basically fronts for that deep desire to completely revolt against society. It's why they all clamber together. And it's sort of farcical in many ways. Again, a climate change protest, but we've got everything from the Maori rights to Free Palestine to, I'm sure, the communists. All turning out to rage against the very system which gives them the lifestyle that they have. So I just thought that was funny. Speaking of funny too, this is the New Zealand Herald. It's funny for two reasons. According to a sociologist, of all things, we shouldn't be surprised there are more than two sexes. Because the people that, and by the way, this woman who's at, is it Auckland? No, Waikato University, is paid for by your taxes, and a professor of sociology. So she's on hundreds of thousands a year and doesn't even realise that there are only two sexes. and she teaches kids. Pretty scary. What's also quite funny, though, is that the Herald shut down the comments. Once again, the Herald, who will desperately try to take your money to be a subscriber, won't let you comment on stories like this, because I assume most people were pointing out that it's beyond idiotic to suggest there's more than two sexes. You can have 50,000 genders. You can believe you're a dolphin if you want. But sex is binary. And I know the activists hate that, but the very eminent scientists in the world, including evolutionary biologists like Richard Dawkins, are very clear. There's only two, except for the sociology department at the University of Waikato, who, again, take your taxpayer money to talk about absolute rubbish. And final things, because obviously we've had the death of the Pope. That happened while I was overseas. Quite a big moment, as people know, Catholic myself. So I've actually just written a quick reflection on my Substack this morning, and I probably will, well, put it this way, I'm not going to speak about this too long. This is pictures of the Cardinals. They've got a big decision ahead. It was probably just an invitation to people, if you have any questions or thoughts around how this, what they call conclave, which basically means like a small locked room. Clave is Latin for key. A small locked room where they go and make their decisions. Long and short, happy to, not this morning because I'm going to have to sign off soon, but I'm more than happy to take any thoughts or questions. I probably will reflect on some of the processes going forward, but that's quite a profound moment whenever a pope dies. As I say, I have done a little Substack. It's not this one. This is last week's one. There's a new one that's literally been out in the last hour on prisons and popes, of all things. So if you go to substack.com and look up On Point or look up my name, you'll find me there, and you can subscribe. Bob, of course, is prolific in the best sense. He writes often and frequently, so this is his recent McBlog, because Benjamin Doyle, that Green MP, has reappeared. And of all things, he's pushing, once again, for radical sexual education on children. If that's not raising red flags to people, I just don't know what. He does seem to be quite obsessed with these topics. I don't know why the Greens let it still happen, but there you go. More positive, the Forum on the Family, where we discuss all of these topics and more, is, the 28th and 29th of August. More details will be coming soon, but I'm going to give you a quick preview of one of our speakers when I can find, can I find it quick? Here we go. I will show this for you quickly.
Project called Dying to Meet You, devoted. Hello, my name is Amanda Ackman, and I created a project called Dying to Meet You, devoted to preventing euthanasia and encouraging hope. Look forward to seeing you at the Forum on the Family in New Zealand.
Amanda's amazing. Some of you may recall I've actually done a podcast with her. I met her in London a few months ago. She is seriously amazing and well worth listening to. She is great. Look, I'm conscious we're coming up to 8 o'clock. A reminder, now that I am back, myself and Bob, there we go, get my grammar right, Bob and I will be doing shows every morning. So myself, like I am at the moment, Thursday, Bob doing Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. And of course tonight at 5 p.m. live, here on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're watching at the moment, Bob and I are hosting Political Playback. We'll be talking about some of the political activities of the last week. I'm bringing myself quickly up to speed, having been away. So look, lots of great and good content. And I should say too, I've also just done a podcast with Associate Professor Juliet Chevalier-Watts on Family Matters. We talk about charities, long and short. She wrote an op-ed recently noting that she had researched charities in New Zealand. As an atheist, she said this herself, expecting to find that we should tax charities big time. But actually it turned out from her research that what charities need is actually more support. So I just think that's a really interesting discussion. I see the government's backtracking from the charity tax this year, but something still to watch. So go, as I say, jump onto the Family First website. You'll be able to find my podcast with her. You'll be able to find other episodes of Solid Ground, of Daybreak with Bob, all of this. So yeah, We're all good. Guys, I will leave you once again. It's been wonderful to be back here. I'm just looking for my fine little screen. Lovely to be back with you here, guys, and I just hope the rest of the day goes well. And as I say, we'll see you hopefully tonight, 5 p.m, for Political Playback. Otherwise, I'll see you next Tuesday on Solid Ground.